This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. This is breaking news. A man in Washington has officially contracted a new strain of bird flu, never before recorded in humans. And as you watch this video, quarantines have been set up in 8 U.S. states, directly affecting the price of eggs, chicken, milk, poultry, and the entire Thanksgiving food supply chain. Everything is happening so fast that even experts are saying the virus is evolving in unpredictable ways. Today, we're going to go through all the details, from the first case, to the states that have closed farms, to the real economic impact that could happen in the coming weeks. First human infection of H5N5. This is not a social media rumor, nor a clickbait headline. This was a real case, officially confirmed by the U.S. health authorities, and it caused an emergency meeting of the epidemiology community. H5N5, a variant of bird flu that has never appeared in humans, had invaded a man living in Washington. He was an elderly man with many underlying diseases. When he was taken to the hospital, he was in critical condition. High fever, difficulty breathing, confusion, and his respiratory system was deteriorating so quickly that the medical team had to intervene immediately. What made the experts especially worried was H5N5 is only found in wild birds, ducks, geese, migratory birds. It has never jumped species to humans. But this time, it did something that was previously considered extremely unlikely. This man lived in Grays Harbor County, a coastal area, where wild birds regularly fly through during migration season. He had a small flock of chickens in his backyard. Health authorities suspect the virus originated from bird droppings that fell into the farming area, were pecked by chickens, and then passed to the caretakers. Many nearby households said that every time there was a suspicion of bird flu, the quarantine team would come and destroy the entire backyard chicken flock, without testing each individual. As long as there was a possibility of being related, the entire flock was considered wiped out. And this is what makes the appearance of H5N5 even more frightening. If it has already crossed the species boundary once, how many more risks lie ahead? 8 states begin to set up agricultural quarantine zones. The situation did not stop with the first H5N5 infection. As the information spread, a series of states across the U.S. were forced to activate the bird flu control system, a strong move that showed the true severity. As of now, 8 states have officially established quarantine zones, restricting the transport of poultry, eggs, feed, and related products. The first hotspot was Indiana. Within days, several commercial poultry flocks were suspected of being infected with HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza. A flock of 28,000 birds and a flock of 35,000 ducks were placed on a no-go list pending regulatory action. Local media described farms as being frozen in all operations. Pennsylvania was in a similar situation. An outbreak had 58,000 birds quarantined, and a larger farm with 2 million birds was completely locked down. Authorities established a 10-kilometer radius banning all transportation, from eggs to live poultry to feed. In Minnesota, the government took a tough approach, restricting poultry movement across the state, requiring all farms to undergo constant state monitoring, and only allowing them to reopen after at least 28 days if they met disinfection standards. California faces another problem. Avian flu has spread to dairy cows. More than 700 flocks have been quarantined, affecting tens of thousands of animals. Many farms have stopped milking altogether, causing major disruptions to the market. The remaining 4 states, Wisconsin, Washington, Oregon, Georgia, have also imposed lockdowns, transportation restrictions, and close monitoring of both commercial and backyard flocks. The overall signs are clear. This is no longer a small incident. It is spreading horizontally, widely, and quickly. The real impact on egg prices, meat prices, milk prices. While states are locking down farms, the biggest concern for people right now is, where will food prices go? Because every time avian flu breaks out, the first things affected are eggs, poultry, and milk. Three things that appear in almost every American meal. The first impact is on eggs. With thousands, even millions of hens quarantined or culled, supplies are immediately squeezed. Last year, egg prices nearly doubled in just a few weeks. And experts warn that this pattern could repeat itself, or even more dramatically, if H5N5 spreads. Next are chickens, ducks, and especially turkeys. This is right around Thanksgiving, which is typically the peak season for poultry consumption. While farms have turkeys ready to sell, if the area is locked down, they are not allowed to ship them, even if they have stock in stock. Some are even forced to cull entire flocks because they cannot wait for the quarantine period to end. The dairy industry, milk, cheese, butter, ice cream, is being hit harder. The reason? Avian influenza has spread to dairy cows. In California, more than 700 flocks have been quarantined, meaning tens of thousands of cows are not being milked. Processing plants were also banned from receiving supplies from the lockdown area, causing milk production to plummet across the state. Dairy is in everything, one expert once remarked. And it's true. Butter in baked goods, cheese in fast food, ice cream in desserts, dairy ingredients in a variety of processed products. Any disruption ripples through the entire supply chain. The conclusion is clear. Food prices will fluctuate wildly, and it's happening right now. What is really happening? Why are these outbreaks every 6 months? When looking at the chain of events over the past few years, one thing that makes many people shudder is, every 5 to 6 months, the U.S. has recorded a new outbreak of bird flu. Each cycle is eerily similar. New variants, poultry culls, rising food prices, and the announcement of "it's under control" from the authorities. But then, just a few months later, it all happened again. In 2025, there were more than 70 human cases of avian influenza, according to public reports, and most were related to direct contact with poultry, bird droppings, or contaminated environments. However, the latest H5N5 case has experts particularly worried because it is not an old variant like H5N1, but a completely new strain, never seen in humans before. What's more, to date, there is no evidence that the virus can be transmitted from person to person. But scientists also frankly admit, viruses are evolving in unpredictable ways. The question is, why do viruses keep jumping from one species to another? Why are wild birds, dairy cows, poultry, and sometimes even humans all affected in turn? And what causes outbreaks to appear in a near-regular cycle? Some experts believe that climate change, new migratory routes for wild birds, and the expansion of industrial farms may be creating conditions for the virus to constantly reassort. But so far, no one has a complete answer. And that's what worries the scientific community most. The virus doesn't stop. It changes, and this time, it's reaching humans in a way it never has before. The terrible consequences for farmers. A lifetime of breeding wipe out in hours. Behind the cold numbers of culled poultry flocks, there are the real lives of thousands of American farmers. People who have spent their lives breeding, caring for, and building a stable farm. But with just one suspicious test result, Everything they have built can disappear within hours. Many farmers share that they have lost rare breeds that have been selected over decades. High-quality laying hens, super-large broilers, or multi-generational dairy herds, all can be considered contagious and forced to call en masse. Some say they are not even allowed to test individual birds. Just being in a suspected area means the entire flock is wiped out, regardless of economic value or genetics. For small farms, especially backyard chicken farms, the shock was even greater. They describe seeing quarantine teams in hazmat suits, gloves, and plastic bags enter their yards, pick up each chicken, and put it in bags. There were no other options. There was no adequate compensation. And more importantly, there was no way to get back what they had lost. What made the pain worse was, sometimes the flock was not infected at all. If it was suspected of being linked to a nearby outbreak, everything was treated as if it carried the virus. In addition to losing their property, many farmers said they felt abandoned. No one was responsible. No one was helping them restore the lost breed. For them, each outbreak was not just a disease, but a blow to their family's future. How can backyard chicken farmers protect their flocks? In the context of avian influenza outbreaks occurring cyclically and becoming increasingly unpredictable, backyard chicken farmers are the most vulnerable group. They do not have the protection system that large farms do, nor a clear compensation system if their flocks are destroyed. So the question is, how can they protect their chickens? Health authorities believe that the most common route of infection comes from wild birds. Each migration season, a large amount of bird droppings fall on gardens, roofs, and barns. Just a few drops fall on the feeding area. The chickens peck at it, and then the caretakers come into direct contact. The chain of infection can happen silently. Some recommendations are emphasized. Cover the coop with nets or roofs to reduce the risk of bird droppings falling into the feeder. Do not let chickens run free under large trees, where wild birds often perch and defecate. Keep the feeding area clean. Change water and food regularly. Keep cats, rats, and wild animals out of the area, as these can carry disease indirectly. However, the trickiest part is, in many states, when chickens show signs of illness, lethargy, reduced appetite, sudden death, owners are required to report. If they don't report, and authorities discover a link to a nearby outbreak, they could face fines or even prosecution. What worries farmers most is the rigidity of the quarantine process. As long as your farm is in a suspected area, your chickens can be put to death without individual testing. This makes many families feel there is no way to fully protect their property. Still, keeping the coop clean, well-covered, and following local warnings is considered the most feasible measure. List of states with tightening regulations. New regulations are spreading. More than just temporary quarantine measures, many states across the U.S. have begun to issue new regulations, tightening the raising, transporting, and trading of poultry. This makes hundreds of thousands of small-scale farmers and commercial farms feel like they are living in a state of 24/7 surveillance. In Washington, where the first H5N5 infection was recorded, Grays Harbor County has required all poultry farmers to immediately report any birds that are sick, have decreased appetite, or suddenly die. The transport of chickens, eggs, and even animal feed is restricted by area. Many local farmers markets have also temporarily stopped accepting poultry from households in the surrounding area. Oregon uses a monitoring model by area. Any farm within the radius of the outbreak is being subjected to constant inspections, from fecal samples, water sources, to housing conditions. Some areas have even stopped selling live poultry altogether. In Georgia, especially in Gordon County, many commercial farms have been placed on short-term lockdowns. Some poultry fairs, 4-H fairs, and breeding exchanges have been temporarily suspended to prevent the risk of spreading. The new regulations have complicated farmers' lives. Shipping a few dozen eggs to the next town requires paperwork. Selling a few chickens to a neighbor can also lead to inspection. Backyard chicken keepers say they feel like they are keeping chickens in a restricted area, always fearing that if one chicken gets sick, the whole flock will be put to death. All of these regulations point to an undeniable reality. States are on high alert, preparing for the virus to continue evolving and spreading. In short, so far, the risk to the public remains low. There is no evidence of human-to-human transmission, but the virus is constantly evolving. And the economic impact is real. The only thing that is certain is food prices will continue to fluctuate, especially eggs, poultry, and dairy. If you raise chickens, ducks, or rely on local food sources, do. Keep your barns clean. Follow your state's announcements. Don't panic, but always be prepared. Stock appropriately during uncertain times. And most importantly, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. Information like this changes every day, and I'll continue to update as soon as possible so you don't get left behind when things are changing so quickly. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next video I'll be diving deeper into this story. Could the new H5N5 variant become a major outbreak, and how will it affect food prices during the holiday season? Thank you for watching. I hope you and your family are staying safe, well, and prepared for any situation. See you in the next video.